Hi, and welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I'm the founder of Food Truck Training Group on Facebook, co-owner with my beautiful wife, Melissa, of our own food truck. It's called Food Truck 101, and I'm the executive director of the National Street Food Vendors Association, which is a nonprofit dedicated to education, advocacy, and uplifting all food vendors. Today, I'm going to be talking about events and how you can determine if an event has potential or not. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys I'm going to be in Orlando, Florida this year on November 12th and 13th. I'm going to be giving two classes as a part of the Food Truck Owners Expo. The two classes are Marketing in the Off-Season and Writing a Profitable Menu. Once those two classes are over, I'll be out on the main expo floor where I'm going to kick off the networking campfire sessions where you guys can listen to me talk, and then after I'm finished, there'll be a whole bunch of other speakers that'll talk about certain subjects or different subjects, and then you can ask questions to get more clarification about that particular subject. After I'm done with my part of the campfire sessions, I'm going to be in our association's booth where you guys can join me there. So again, that's in Orlando, Florida, November 12th and 13th. If you haven't got your tickets today, go ahead and do that. Go to FTOexpo.com, place the order for those tickets, and when you do, put in the code FTTG15 for a 15% discount. I want to thank Table Needs for sponsoring this episode of the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. Table Needs is a full-service POS system capable of handling your busy cash, credit card, and reporting needs. If you guys need more information about Table Needs, there's a link in the description to make that happen. So let's talk about how do you size up an event to know if it's going to be worth your time or not. So the first thing I want to do before we even get into how do you figure out if the event's going to be profitable, let's talk about what an event is and what an event is not. As a food truck, you have four main revenue streams. Those are routes, events, pop-ups, and catering. Now there's other revenue streams as well, but the four main ones are the ones I just mentioned. So let's talk about what each of those different things are. A route's pretty simple. You're an ice cream truck and you drive around. There are some cities around the country that make even food vendors do that. They only allow them to park for 30 minutes at a time, and then they have to move on down the street. That is a revenue stream based on your selection of a route. But guess what? It's your selection of a route. You have to know what people are going to be on that particular route and if they're going to want your kind of food or not. So that's a route. A pop-up. A pop-up is when you decide that I'm going to go sit in this parking lot, or I'm going to be a part of the hardware store because they invited me, or I'm going to a brewery because they invited me, or I've walked in and invited myself. But in any case, you are popping up. There is nothing else going on other than you sitting on somebody's parking lot, hoping that you're getting some of the overflow from their business. Likewise, they are hoping they get some overflow from you. That's a pop-up. You can be on the side of a street as a pop-up. You can be at the end of a cul-de-sac as a pop-up. You can sit anywhere you want, but you are not a part of a food truck park or any other type of activity going on. You are the star of the show. That's a pop-up. A catering. Now we start to get into some confusion here between pop-ups, events, and catering. People call everything an event. An event has a specific definition, and many food truck owners conflate a catering with an event. A catering sometimes is called an event because the client is doing something that to them is an event. They are excited to have a wedding. So that is an event for those folks. But as far as the food truck goes, it's not an event. It's a catering. Here's how you tell if you're doing a catering or not. A catering is one payer, many plates. So let me say that again. One payer, many plates. What that means is client comes up to you and says, hey, I would like you to come cater this event, and I want you to supply this menu. And then they give you a list of things they want on the menu. Or they just tell you, hey, I want you to bring your food truck, and you're going to have 100 guests, 200 guests, 500 guests, and they're all going to be ordering the food, but I'm going to be the one paying. So one payer, many plates. Typically, a catering is also closed to the public. So when they tell you I've got 100 people, that's all you're waiting on is 100 people, if all 100 people show up. Now, the thing of it is, since it's a catering, you're going to tell them in simple terms, okay, so you have 100 people coming, and I need to charge you $20 a head, so that means I need $2,000. That money is payable before I ever show up. That's a catering. Even though it may be an event to the client, they're having a pool party, they're having a wedding, it's a reception, it's a funeral, whatever it is, it's an event to them, but to you, it is a catering. Again, one payer, many plates. So now let's talk about an event. Going to the brewery is not an event. Setting up in front of the hardware store is not an event. Even if they call it an event, it is not. It could be an advertising event that the hardware is doing. We're having 50% off. That's an event to them. It's not an event to you. In order for something to be an event, it has to have certain criteria. So an event would be a gathering of people for entertainment purposes. Gathering of people for entertainment purposes. Going to the hardware store is not entertainment. Going to the brewery might be entertainment, but it's not, because people aren't doing things other than drinking and socializing, which is what you do at a restaurant, which is what you do at a brewery. You drink and you socialize. You're not being entertained. You might go there to watch a football game, but you could also watch that football game at home. An event, gathering of people for entertainment purposes. So what we're talking about here would be a sporting event, a concert, a fair, a festival. All of those things are events. So think, again, fair, festival, carnival, circus, annual art walks, parades, local celebrations, sports, concerts. Those are common events. If the activity repeats every week or every month, it's not really an event. Why? Because it takes out one key element. There's no fear of missing out, no FOMO effect. Because if I miss this week's, it's still going to be there next week, no big deal. So it's not a true event. An event is special. An event is big time. Even though it may only have a few hundred or even a few dozen people, it is not something that's going to be repeated over and over and over. Those are not events. Events are a big deal. But when you do a true event, one that's only held annually or semi-annually, to where there's a big amount of space in between the next time people are going to be able to attend, they tend to take it a little bit more seriously. So now we get into the smaller quote-unquote events, like a car show, school fall festival, other super hyper local gatherings that could be considered events, because they are, again, held infrequently. School fall festivals are only held in the fall. Car shows of any size are only held periodically. Those could be considered events, but here's the thing. They may not be worth your time, because the crowd size and the length of the event may not force people to have to eat. So think about that car show. It's got 30, 40 cars. It's going to be held for 3-4 hours. Would you go to a food truck during that 3 or 4 hours of viewing time to eat? Or would you rather just look at the cars and eat before you ever went to the car show, or to eat after the car show's completed and go sit down and get out of the hot sun and relax? There's nothing compelling people to go eat during those short-term quote-unquote events. It has to make sense for them to want to eat, for you to be there. Could you make good money at a car show? Yes, you can make good money. Can you fail miserably and hate that you went there? Yes. That happens more frequently than people that make good money at those smaller car shows. So here's a list of questions that I want you to ask, because one of the things that really bothers me is people create a us against them paradigm. It's real easy to hate people when they're not a part of us. Well, those people, and we hear that all the time. Just look at the political landscape for an election. No matter what side of the fence you're on, it's always us against them. You can't afford that. You cannot segregate your potential by having an us against them mentality. Where this us against them mentality comes into play is event organizers. Go through and read any one of the Facebook groups out there. Just don't even get on ours. Go read the others. How hated are organizers? They're human beings. But because we create a us against them, they're liars. They promised 10,000 people and only 1,000 showed up. They promised 500 people and 50 showed up. Let me tell you something. I want you to listen to this. If you don't listen to anything else in the other 560 some episodes, listen to this. They are human beings just like you. They have chosen to be the salesperson for that event, just like you have chosen to be the salesperson for your food truck. So when someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, what's good today?" you're giving them your opinion on what you think is the best product on your food truck. Now notice I said your opinion. So when they say, "I'm going to have 500 people," that's their opinion. They have 0 crystal balls available to them that will show them what their attendance is going to be. They are hoping, just like you hope, that today is going to be the best day in sales you've ever had. They are hoping that when the event opens, it's going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. They are putting their best foot forward, their best opinion on that event. How many food trucks do you know that says world best burger, world's best pizza, world's best whatever? That's an opinion. How many people are coming to an event? I got 5,000 people coming. That's an opinion. It's not us against them. It's their salesperson trying to paint their particular product in the best light possible, because they don't know how many people's going to attend. Guess what? Neither do you. So you're going to ask them questions to make them prove to you that the event is worth attending. So you ask them real simple. What's the current social media following of the event? What are the social media platforms the event is on? If the event does not have its own social media page and is not on all the possible social medias that are popular in your area, do not attend. In the conversation, because I can promise you the event is not going to be worth your time. He could tell you he's got 10,000 people coming, but if they can't prove it on social media, it's not going to happen. But how many food truck owners out there, I see dollar signs, and the dollar signs convince you to say yes, even though the guy can't prove it? That's on you. What is the marketing budget for the event? If you're going to have 10,000 people show up, how do they know you exist as an event? What's your marketing budget? How is that marketing budget going to be spent on TV, radio, print, sponsored social media ads, and social media influencers? An event worth attending is going to have a budget for marketing. If they do not, that means their reach is just like yours on social media. How much money are you spending on social media? Guess what? If your budget for social media is bigger than theirs, do the math on that. How old is the event? Can the event prove historical attendance numbers? If this is a first-year event, pass on it. The worst thing that happens is they are super successful and you missed out. Oh well. Now you know next year you should be attending. But what typically happens for first-year events is they are poorly attended, and a whole bunch of people stand around and complain about, how bad is this event? Ain't nobody here. I'm only selling to the other vendors. Well, goofy, you decided to go for a first-year event. Say no. Is the event ticketed, or is it free admission? If it's ticketed, at least you can get a count on how many tickets have you sold to date. How many tickets were bought last year? What is the cost to get into the event? If it's a free event, you may have attendance, you may not. Can the attendees come and go freely, or do they have to, once they pay, stay inside the venue until the activity is over, or they decide to leave and they can't come back? Where's the venue? And then you analyze, can this venue hold this number of people? And all the attractions that are going to be there. Remember, an event is doing things. People are going there to look at something, listen to something, participate in something. Is there sufficient space for those things to happen? And then is there sufficient space for people to be there to do those things? Does the event have a series of rules, and does the event have a contract for the vendors and for participants in the event? If it doesn't have rules and it doesn't have a contract for you to sign, say no. Big events are spending big money. When big money is being spent, they got to protect their rear ends. If they don't have a contract, they aren't spending a bunch of money. They are just like you, trying to get people to come to attend something. That's not going to be worth your time, especially if it's a first-year event. I can't stress that enough. An event has stuff going on for people want to attend. They have rides to ride, pets to pet. They have games to play. They have things to win. They have shopping to look at. They have trinkets to buy. All of those things create opportunities for you to be a part of. But if people don't come to it, then it's just a whole bunch of vendors standing around looking at each other. And here's the most important question. Are the food choices protected and limited by a contract? So when that organizer comes up to you and says, I've got this big event, you need to be a part of it. I got 10,000 people coming. You should ask, how many food trucks, how many food vendors, and will there be duplicate menus? And make your decision based on that. Is it limited by a contract? I hope you heard that. Is it limited by a contract? So if they tell me I'm going to have 10,000 people there and there's only going to be 10 food trucks, what happens when the 11th one shows up? What happens when I've been promised that there'll be no duplicate menu and somebody else is selling my food? What happens then? What's the recourse? That should be laid out in a contract. If it's not, the event is not experienced. The event is not going to be worth your time. Doesn't matter what people promise you verbally. What matters is what's written. If they don't have a written contract, do not go. That's an easy, Thank you for the opportunity. When you have a written contract, I'll consider you. Have a good day. It kills me when a food truck owner takes the word of somebody at face value and then gets all bent out of shape when the event doesn't draw the people they thought it would draw. No one has a crystal ball. No one knows what an event is going to draw. And yet there are food truck owners that take events, crossing their fingers and hoping that this dude is honest. He is honest. He's honest within his abilities to predict, just like you're honest within your own ability to predict something. How busy are you going to be tomorrow? Can you answer that? If you were to set up tomorrow in your most popular place, how much sales are you going to do? How many guests are going to come visit you tomorrow? You don't know the answer to that. You've got a reasonable assumption based on what? History. But you don't know with 100% certainty how many people are going to come tomorrow. Event organizers are the same. If they don't have a history, they don't know they don't know how many people are going to show up. But you can help yourself by asking those questions. Here's some reasons to say no. Make it real easy on you. Just say no. And yes, some events are going to be successful despite this list, but it's a gamble. If you like gambling, go to Las Vegas. It's way more fun. So here is the reasons to say no. The event has no written rules. Just say no. The event has no contract. Just say no. The event agrees to your demands of a minimum. If they're going to agree to you telling them what to do, you ought to be saying no. The fact that you're asking for a minimum means you should say no. The event will sign a contract that you created. You should say no. The event has no current social media following. Just say no. The event venue lacks parking, space for attractions. It lacks space for the vendors. It doesn't have security. It doesn't have insurance. It doesn't have bathrooms. It lacks a cap on the number of food vendors. Say no. The event is in the first year. Say no. Let other new people do it. You say no. The contract has no bad weather plan or recourse if the event gets canceled. The event is unwilling to share marketing budgets or prove that marketing is going to be scheduled. Say no. You have to go into any event opportunity as this is a partnership. If they are unwilling to be open and transparent with you, don't get into bed with them. Just say no. And if you're wrong, okay, you learned. I'd rather you learn and have saved the money than to spend a whole bunch of money on inventory and sit there and whine and cry about, well, this event isn't very good. If there is one doubt in your mind, say no. And then stalk the event and see what they really did do. And then next year you'll know. But don't blame event organizers. You're the one that made the decision. Accept responsibility. If it's beyond you to accept responsibility for your business and your business decisions, just go ahead and close. You are going to be frustrated beyond belief because you're blaming other people for your decisions. You believed them. I believe everybody, but I verify everything. And if they can't give me proof, hey, you're a good person, but I'm not going to the event. It's real simple. Stop blaming other people for your own shortcomings. Thank you guys so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. And if you really like what we do, support us. Every little bit does help keep us going. Until next time, you guys have a profitable week.